Our intro theme tonight is AI, and it has taken several very large quantum leaps in public access in the past 2 days, and it is honestly quite frightening. I am more terrified than I've ever been about the robot apocalypse and the general inability of governing bodies to make any decisions like preemptively that will be sufficient. This was revealed as OpenAI's Sora, and it is a fully rendered video off purely a text prompt done by AI. It is crazy how good this is and how far this technology has come in the past year alone. And it's very frightening for a lot of reasons. There's obviously industry reasons. Well, we're going to go through all of the, or at least a lot of the examples that they have. They actually do have really good eyes also. I think it's actually more that the sunglasses are showing off the reflections, because the reflections are honestly very impressive also. In this video, I, having recently went to Japan literally 3 months ago, this looks literally straight out of Tokyo. It is shocking how accurate this looks, and it's very scary for the future in terms of artwork, general jobs, but especially things like information, misinformation, and all sorts of things like that. And they do explicitly call out the fact that they are basically trying to sanitize it to prevent political misinformation or whatnot. But let's see, does it actually say long and black boots? Actually, let me check what the more is, because they actually have the prompt right here. Red dress, black boots, and carries a black purse. She wears sunglasses and red lipstick. She walks confidently and casually. The street is damp and reflective, creating a mirror effect of the colorful lights. Many pedestrians walk by. So it's the thing is that people like us have a very high degree of technology literacy, and so we're very tuned in to this kind of thing existing now, and we're the type of people that read these or see these tweets or anything like that, and so we're a little bit more trained to look for it. But if you're not looking for it, this would pass the vast majority of the population's sniff test, so to speak, as being real. And if you look closely, you'll see some things. Some things I saw pointed out are that, interestingly enough, the reflections in certain parts of it actually are at a different frame rate, which is hilarious because that's actually something that happens in video games also, is that things rendered at a distance or in reflections will sometimes be at a different frame rate. And there's a few things like that. And if you look really close, AI still has a lot of problems with AI does not understand. It is very good at imitating something, but it doesn't understand what it's imitating. And so I think what's really scary is how good it is at imitating something without actually really understanding it. And where you see that often is where something will perhaps morph shapes or will sort of spawn a duplicate or leave behind a duplicate, because the AI is really just constantly looking at what should go next to something else. But because it doesn't have an understanding of what it's doing, it can sometimes essentially not realize that the thing having moved should not be there anymore. Honestly, the level of physics on display and spatial understanding is pretty crazy here. And again, these are the cherry-picked examples, but these are very good. They are so good that it's scary. And I honestly think that the strategy of all of these companies that are doing these massive AI things is to quickly iterate and release it to the public so that too many businesses start to use these things, and it becomes such a daunting prospect to undo that legislatures will be unable or unwilling to basically wind back the fairness aspects that they're almost certainly violating in the creation of these engines. And because we all know, anybody that's been part of the AI discussion knows that the training set is always proprietary and they don't share what they're training these AIs on. And the reality of it is, we know that they are scraping images, copyrighted works, text, speech, video off of everything out there on the internet. And their legal right to do so is extremely dubious. And in the case of companies like Google and Microsoft and Twitter that run platforms where their primary data is, or like their primary business is storing your data for you, it's almost assured that they have written in some clause that they have like the rights to examine that data. And that's probably what they're going to argue in court, that you willingly handed it over to them. But what I suspect is that they're trying to get it so integrated into society that we're not going to want, like, it's just going to be too daunting of a task to say, okay, no, we have to figure out all the legal ramifications of the past 8 years before they can write laws about it. And so they're kind of just going to slide it in. And anyway, I don't really have a good solution for it, and it's really difficult. But the level of stuff that they're showing off here, this is it's crazy. And it's especially crazy when you're putting in artistic things like this. This prompt is about being papercraft, which is exactly what it looks like. It looks like papercraft. Anyway, these examples are really cool and really exciting and really scary all at the same time. And I don't really have any good answers about what we should be doing about this, because I think that it's going to be very difficult to come, like I said, to come to a case where we can make rules before it's too late. And there's a certain degree on AI as a concept that a lot of people say, like, oh, well, it'll get rid of these jobs. And I'm obviously sympathetic to that. But at the same time, that is what all technology does, pretty much. All technology gets rid of jobs and does things more efficiently and faster. And we're not going to go back to an era where we have to use horses for transportation. But I'm sure that put a lot of people whose business involved transporting, raising, training, etc. horses, and those jobs don't exist. Similarly, things in software, coming from the background that I have of software, so much of software is about bootstrapping off of what came before so that you don't have to do those tedious parts. And that's how operating systems and graphics have advanced so quickly, because not even that long ago, you used to have to, in my lifetime, you basically used to have to directly address individual bits in RAM and memory and things like that to tell the computer how to manage its resources. And eventually that sort of just got integrated as a basic function into higher level coding. And all of these things are bootstrapped on top of each other to accelerate your ability to do things with these tools. And they certainly were areas of knowledge that people had to specialize in. But I don't think anybody really wants us to have to go back to writing in assembly language for computers. So it's a really difficult question when it comes to, it's a really difficult question as to like what tools and what jobs it's okay or not to get rid of. And obviously the people that have those jobs don't want them to be gotten rid of, but I don't know. That it's very tough, and these things are happening so fast that I can tell you right now, we are absolutely not fucking ready for what's coming. This similarly, I found this example really cool because the example of this was a California gold rush. You know, like obviously this isn't going to be a source of misinformation or something like that, but this is really cool and it's really convincing for the most part. Now, I will say those things I was talking about earlier about the flaws where it doesn't understand that things actually exist or actually move is pretty funny. I want to see if I can find the cat one because, oh yeah, this one was like, that's a pretty goddamn good eye. That's pretty scary. The level of detail in the skin, yikes. But there was one. Okay. So I think, as I'm sure most of you know, AI is still bad at hands. Watch the hands at the end. It's actually horror. It is horrifying because it doesn't understand that a hand is a hand and joints only go one way. So it's like morphing between both directions at the same time. And it's really disturbing, but also funny. But even that, if you exclude that, everything else in this looks straight out of a Pixar film. And it's you know that it's going to be being used very soon in a lot of industries, if it's not already. And all of the things that they're revealing are things that are going to the public, but you also have to assume that not only do these companies, but also governments have access to similar, if not crazier, things that are not bound by the safety rails that they're trying to put in. And that alone scares the shit out of me, because if this is what they're letting everyone have access to, like what are they, you know, not to get all conspiracy theory on you, but what are they getting access to that the rest of us aren't, if this is what they can give to everyone? And it's staggering. It is truly staggering to see how far it's come. But a really interesting thing that I saw was somebody on Twitter, and I wanted to point this one out too, but somebody on Twitter actually put the same prompts into this as they did, I think, Dolly, one of the Dollies, or maybe it was Midjourney. And it was really interesting how often the output of the images from one model looked very similar to the output of the movie, even though ostensibly they are completely different products. It's very interesting that these companies that ostensibly are working from the ground up are looking very similar, which is, I think, a problem that they're kind of brushing under the rug, that because they're all trained kind of on the massive public data set, that a lot of it is going to end up converging on very similar or the same outputs. And it's, you know, but anyway, so one thing I wanted to point out about the thing with the like arms leaving clones. So if we look at this paw here, yeah, so it's like it goes over and it baps her with the left paw, and then it reaches up with the right paw to bap, but the right paw becomes the left paw like halfway through, and it never like leaves where it is. Which it actually took me several times to notice that, but it's things like that really show that it's not actually creative and it doesn't understand. But at the same time, it clearly does understand, because the prompt is that a cat is waking its owner up in the morning for food, right? But it is funny when you see some of the ones with problems, and to the credit of OpenAI, they did put, and the hand, yeah, I was gonna say that was the second one I was gonna point out. This hand down here kind of just like comes out of nowhere and is very confusing. This hand is very confusing, just in general. But yeah, I don't know. It's still They do have some examples of ones that have obvious problems. So like, once again, showing that the computer does not fundamentally understand the real world. It'll do shit like this where it'll look right, except you'll realize that it's just like backwards or reversed. So it's like a bird flying through the air, but it's very obviously flying backwards, which obviously does not work. This one's funny. This one is like a million dogs spawning out of the back of one dog. This is like shadow clone jutsu in an AI form, because like as soon as the dog starts to pivot, the AI is like, well, sure, it may be pivoting, but the rest of its body's still there, which totally means there could be a head there. You know what I mean? Which is fun in a creative way, but that's clearly not what they're trying to accomplish here, which is pretty funny also. Oh, this is funny too, actually. This is like 10-year-olds super six smash YouTube edit. This is actually my favorite bad one though, because the prompt is that archaeologists are digging up a normal plastic chair and carefully dusting it off, but it's getting confused both that the chair is a chair halfway through and the chair becomes sort of animatronic in a Fantasia sense, and then also because this dirt that they're peeling off just like turns into the chair. And it's really uncanny to watch because the people honestly kind of look so good that it feels like it feels like it is real, except that it's so unreal, which again, funny, but even so, the fact that it's not that this chair is AI, it's this entire scene is AI, the background is AI, the people are AI. I mean, you look at them like stepping in this dirt here, you know, and it's like realistically, for the most part, kicking up dust and dirt as they're walking through the sand is wild. The final sort of funky one is this one, like, mostly looks good until, again, you look at literally anyone's hands for the entirety of this video. Like, this woman right here, she gives the craziest hand jobs. Like, you just look at it, like, whoop, and then like, whoop, maybe we got a couple. She's a fucking stage magician. This woman just doesn't know what to do with her hands, which, I mean, fair. I kind of suffer from that also. Like, it's so baffling. Yeah, fourth dimensional hand job. Exactly. That was like the big announcement from OpenAI, but similarly, we also got some really big announcements, and I'm forgetting the source of it I'm forgetting the source of it from which model it was. I think it was the Gemini update from Google, where the prompt can take in like images and sound and video and text and up to massive quantities for the purposes of determining, you know, how to understand things, and where somebody would just like draw a fourth grader's doodles and say like, what is this? And it would pretty accurately figure out what it was supposed to be, even though it obviously doesn't look like that real thing. But a human would be able to tell that, like, oh, that's a person, you know, stepping on something, you know, but it's like, it's just a human drawing it, and they like feed in the video of the human drawing it, and they're like, what's this person drawing? And that's very impressive. Again, potentially very, very useful, also very scary. And yeah, I don't know. I've already noticed the fact that we are getting so many of these like journalism articles that are very clearly just GPT outputs that are like, this is a video game of all time. You know, it's like they all start out with that. It is an action role-playing game in which you play a character. Insert character's name here. and they fight against insert enemy's name here, and you know, all this shit. And it's like once you start seeing that pattern, you kind of can't unsee it, and it's annoying. And you can also tell that they're using ChatGPT bots to replace customer support, except the GPT bots are basically just advanced wikis, except you can also make them hallucinate. So there was actually recently a case in Canada where the GPT bot for an airline gave her an incorrect thing about how to get a bereavement discount because she had a family member die, and that's some policy that they have. It's a real policy, but it told her the wrong thing. And then the airline tried to come back and say like, oh, no, you should know that you can't trust the chat bot. And it's, fortunately the courts sided with the woman, because they're like, well, how the fuck is a customer supposed to know which part of your service they're supposed to just de facto not trust, right? That is so stupid. So I'm glad that they sided with the woman in this case, but at the same time, they also sort of said that like, well, if you just put a thing on there saying that like not all information might be 100% accurate from the chat bot, it's like, okay, so great. So you've basically just abdicated the ability for companies to just completely strip departments and then run communication through a bot, and then that bot can't be held responsible for it. Anyway, that was interesting. I remember about a year ago, I think it was Toyota, it was one of the truck companies, put in a chat bot, and basically people realized it was a chat bot, and so they started trying to like abuse the chat bot, and they managed to convince it to say that it would sell them a brand new pickup truck for $1, which again is exactly the type of thing that you know is gonna happen, because they're not real people. They can fake being people, but they're not real people. And we're in for a real legal quagmire and a lot of unrest. And that's also why I don't really use AI in my job for coding, because I know that it can be really interesting about like being able to find issues in code or write code to do generic things. But at the same time, a lot of our software deals with legacy code that is very old and specific to the frameworks that it's on. And if I just start trusting it, then like finding what it broke or why it broke it becomes, I don't know. I'm not there yet, but I'm afraid that there's going to be a lot of people that are there and just start doing that. So anyway, we're entering into a bold, exciting, terrifying era with AI, and it'll be interesting to see what develops out of it.